Connor
350 is a lot to me now.
Connor O'Gara is with us from Saturday Down South. Connor, do you have any tips on bracket choosing? First of all, you ever won a bracket or made a little money off of it, or do you try to pick all the losers so that you just get your money back and finish dead last?
No, I don't shoot the moon when it comes to brackets. No, we don't mess around like that. It's funny you mentioned that. I'm glad you did. You teed me up just so perfectly, because last year I had a bracket that will never be repeated ever again. I've already accepted it. In my 15-person bracket pool that I organized, I had 3 of the Final Four. I had the national championship perfectly predicted. I had Baylor beating Gonzaga, and I had it won before the Final Four started. I mean, it will never get that good again. And this is coming from a guy who accurately predicted the first Florida national championship back when they won it all, the first of two, 15 years ago. And, basically everything between that period has been a rough go for your boy. But at the same time, I did feel validated finally. And part of it was because I had a lot of faith in the Hogs, and the fact that they were able to get all the way to the Elite Eight certainly helped. But, man, I was on fire in a way last year that I just never will be again, and I've accepted that.
Well, don't do it again this year. Otherwise, we'll expect it 3 years in a row, because, you do it twice in a row, then people begin to expect perfection. So congratulations on that last year. All right. It does appear that while there is in college football an SEC bias, it does appear right now to a lot of folks that there's a Big Ten bias in college basketball, at least as far as the net rankings are concerned and the NCAA selection committee. I know we want to pour one out for Texas A&M. To be honest, I don't care that A&M didn't get in. I've thought for a long time the conference tournaments just don't matter when it comes right down to it in the selection committee's eyes. And I guess what happened with A&M is a pretty perfect example of exactly that.
Here's the thing, though. Why are we playing conference tournaments?
Right.
Do they have a purpose anymore? I'm realistically asking
They're
that.
fun.
And
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I guess, sure, but it just seems like more negative can come from that than good. And I realize these conferences want to get money, so there's a monetary reward, of course, for this and all that. So I get it, and those aren't going away anytime soon. But at the same time, why did that have any sort of relevance this weekend? If Tennessee had just decided, you know what, we're not going to show up this week, or maybe Tennessee is dealing with massive COVID outbreak or something like that, and they just said, we're going to stay home, they would have gotten a 3 seed. They won a tournament. We saw them beat a really good Kentucky team. We saw them cool down a red-hot Texas A&M team in the championship and win convincingly in all 3 games that they played. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter that they have a better resume than Duke in every single metric. They still only got the 3 seed. And so, John Calipari brought up an interesting point, and I think it's one that has some relevance now, especially as you look at the historical context of what the conference tournament has meant, not only for the SEC, but for the Big Ten as well. Do you start playing the conference championship on a Saturday? Do you give them a little bit more time to kind of digest what exactly it meant? Because it did not feel like the SEC tournament meant anything. And if your goal is to have it be relevant and have it impact seeds, then, man, I would think that maybe, moving it up a full day and giving the selection committee a little bit more time to digest those resumes would be the way to do it.
And I'm still old enough to remember when the Big Ten and I think the Pac-12 did not have conference tournaments. Bobby Knight fought hard against conference tournaments for the Big Ten. He felt that the regular season should stand for itself. And I feel like that's the way the committee already is looking at it. Unless you're one of the one-bid leagues, these conference tournaments are all about, jobs for people in the conference offices and programming on ESPN and on CBS and all that kind of stuff. Feels like bowl games in some cases.
It's just weird, though. I mean, it's weird to see that, we talked about the SEC's depth this year, and we talked about A&M being a team that was on the bubble, and then you do exactly what you set out to do, which is have a deep run, and it just doesn't impact anything. It's like, well, what's the point of playing those games? I mean, ask Arkansas, who has been just red hot about what it was like to run into those A&M guards. I mean, those guards defended like their season was on the line, because it was. And we saw that play out against Auburn, too. I mean, Katie Johnson, I think, has just missed another shot by the time I finished that sentence going up against the A&M guards. It's been it was pretty obvious for the last month of the year that A&M was absolutely a tournament team. Now, obviously, they had the 8-game losing streak, but it's just kind of weird to see that all sort of crescendo and not necessarily have that reward on the back end, even though teams like Rutgers and Michigan and Notre Dame, who A&M beat in the regular season, gets rewarded when it looked like all those things were equal, and A&M was certainly playing better down the stretch.
Well, when it comes to teams like Rutgers and Michigan and who have losing conference records and stuff like that, and yeah, they have good resumes. Yeah, they've got some really good quad one wins, but they've also got some really head-scratching losses. Is it realistic for because I think we can all agree the committee thinks the Big Ten is the greatest thing to happen since sliced bread. And if you play in the Big Ten, your resume is automatically weighted more. Is it right for them to do that, for them to give Michigan the benefit of the doubt, for them to give a Rutgers the benefit of the doubt, and not give an A&M?
I'll say it in Spanish for you. No. No, like it's bizarre. Look, I'm a Big Ten grad. I went to Indiana. My team was on the bubble. I thought my team got a raw deal by having to play in a first four game after it beat Illinois, who was the top seed in the league. But like, Big Ten hasn't won a national title in 22 years. I mean, think about that, guys. Since the Flintstones, that team in 2000 that Tom Izzo had, Big Ten has not won a national title since then. But yet, 9 teams into the field this year. Everybody came into the tournament last year talking about how great the Big Ten was, and only to watch it fall on its face. And yeah, college basketball is different than college football in that sometimes tournament results don't validate the year that you had. You just have a bad day, and that's all she wrote, and that's your season. But it does feel strange to continue to see the Big Ten get praised for its depth year after year after year when we're standing around, wondering why isn't the Big Ten ever cutting down the net? Why do we continue to praise the depth? Yeah, it's great that you get teams into the national championship, and maybe that's what carries so much weight. I mean, the Big Ten in the 21st century has had 8 total teams play in the national championship, the last 7 of which have lost. I mean, and that's not even including a team like Maryland, who later joined the Big Ten, all those different things. So it is strange to see that because, there really shouldn't be that conference bias in college basketball. We've kind of seen it play out the last 15 years where actually there's been, a ton of parity. It's been a little bit all over the place. So it's weird to think that one conference gets benefited out over another.
And at least in college football, when the SEC gets the bias and they get the benefit of the doubt, they have the championships and trophies to back it up. And with the SEC basketball this season, I think, like you said, the tournament didn't change anything. I don't think I view any team differently, and no seed lines change. Outside of Arkansas and Kentucky, I don't know if I have a lot of faith in everybody else. And I'd like to say Tennessee, but Tennessee's track record as a university in the NCAA tournament, and then Rick Barnes as a coach track record in the NCAA tournament doesn't give me a lot of faith. Is there anybody out there besides, I guess, Kentucky and Arkansas that you would legitimately say right now they'll be in the Sweet 16, no doubt?
At Tennessee, Tennessee would be that team. And I had the Vols getting to the Elite Eight, losing to Illinois. And look, I totally get it with Rick Barnes, and he gets criticized for the March woes because, as successful as he is, 25 NCAA tournament appearances, the guy hasn't been to an Elite Eight since 2008. I was a senior in high school when that happened. That is just a crazy thought for somebody who is so respected in this industry, but it's hard not to look at that. But at the same time, this team is playing so well, and they are just an excellent defensive team. You kind of see the way that they've just rolled through the SEC tournament, and how different they look now compared to when they were throwing up bricks in the beginning of the season, and it looked like they couldn't buy a basket in some of those games early on. But at the same time, I think the Vols have the DNA to be able to make a deep run. I think their defense should be able to travel. Kennedy Chandler has stepped up big time for them. So, they'd be the one. But you're right. LSU with an interim coach, they wouldn't necessarily bet on that. Alabama's been probably the most Jekyll and Hyde team in all college basketball, and it's been more of a disappointment. So, I would say those 3 have the best chances, and none of them necessarily have an easy road. I don't even have faith in Auburn. I don't even have Auburn getting to the second weekend.
I don't either.
I don't think you can really. That game against USC, they run into a better big Isaiah Mobley. Who knows? He could take Walker Kessler out of the game. So it could be very few teams in the SEC who make it to that second weekend.
that would include LSU, although they've got the opportunity to do the whole us against the world thing or us against the NCAA thing with Will Wade's firing, and now Kevin Nickelberry's got to take over. Why would any coach take the LSU job unless it's like, just like throwing it against the wall and seeing if it sticks and if you can make it through the scholarship reductions and the sanctions and the postseason ban that they're going to get? I mean, obviously they waited until the allegations were levied on Wade so that they didn't have to pay him the rest of the contract or a buyout. But, I mean, LSU basketball, it feels like they're about to be the rock that sinks to the bottom of the Arkansas River.
Do you guys know that what's that promotion where they just show up on your door, you sign up for the sweepstakes, and it's just this big check that they'll give you, and you're like, oh, my God, you just won millions of dollars.
Clearinghouse? Isn't that
Ed
what
McMahon.
it is?
Ed McMahon, yeah, Publishers Clearinghouse.
So that is what I think it would be like to get offered this LSU head coaching job. Now, hear me out here, because, yes, you're 100% right. There are a lot of things that you would look at with LSU, and you would probably say, I would like to avoid that. I would like to avoid having recruiting sanctions and all those different things. And that, in this scenario, is like the taxes you would have to pay and the clearinghouse thing and all of the associations that come with having a big windfall of money that you would have to navigate with family and friends and all those different things. But Scott Woodward showing up on your doorstep with a giant check and saying, be my coach, that's kind of an attractive thing. And as I've said before, Scott Woodward makes bigger splashes than Ham Porter from Sandlot. Like this is what he does. He's going to continue to do that despite the fact that he's going to be working with some limitations. And I would fully expect LSU to try and pull a rabbit out of the hat and make a big-time hire. I think that this is just kind of what they do. And despite the fact that they might be crippled over the next few years with some of these sanctions, I think they'll still be able to make a relatively attractive and pretty lucrative offer here.
I like your Sandlot analogy.
I love it.
I think LSU basketball is going to be more like the ride on the go around with some spit tobacco in your mouth. They're going to be puking all over the place at some point, or maybe there'll be the wet baseball in the dog's mouth, something like that. I don't know. It just seems like they're about to be completely exploded. But I want to move over to football for a quick moment here, because you wrote a good piece on Saturday Down South about the running backs that have transferred into the SEC. And I'm thinking like Noah Cain, who came from Penn State to LSU, and all of that. But I still, like, if on a quick minute, can you think of another backfield right now that could be as dangerous and as varied in the styles of running as Arkansas, with Dominique, with Rocket, with AJ Green?
Yeah, it's really difficult. I would say Auburn, just because having Hunter and Tank, I mean, those guys should be one of the best 1-2 punches, but maybe not as good 1 through 3 as what Arkansas expects to be this year. And the fact that Traylon Smith transferred is pretty telling. But yeah, I mean, you could always expect a team like Alabama to just kind of emerge. They got Gibbs, the transfer from Georgia Tech. If Trey Sanders can stay healthy, they like their young guys. But I would say that Arkansas 1 through 3 is about as good as there is. Now, it'll get interesting, I think, at a couple of these different places. If, Kentucky, which always just seems to have backfield depth, Chris Rodriguez is going to be one of the better returning backs in all of college football. They always find a way to get those second and third guys involved. That could be a program. And then Zach Evans is going to lead the way at Ole Miss, the TCU transfer. And Lane just always has a staple of backs, even though he just lost his 3 backs, and Evans is kind of replacing that production. So, yeah, Arkansas is going to have a really versatile, dynamic backfield, but I think these backfields are just kind of ever-changing now. That's the new landscape of the SEC.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. All right, Connor, we'll leave it there. Good luck filling the bracket out. We'll need a full report on if you got it all going again like last year when we talk on Monday.
Fingers crossed, guys. I'll keep you updated.
Hey, have a good one, Connor.
Connor O'Gara, Saturday Down South. You can always give him a follow on Twitter at CJ O'Gara. March Madness is upon us. The best place to find the best odds on NCAA March Madness, it's BetUS Racing, BUSR.com. They got a bracket contest, thousands of dollars in prizes. And if you're an ESPN Arkansas listener, you qualify for an exclusive 100% deposit bonus. Put in $100, you get $100 just like that added to your account. Put in $500, you get $500. Simple as that. All you got to do is use the following website to sign up: BUSR.com/Morning Rush. That's BUSR.com/Morning Rush. Bet with confidence. Bet with BUSR. Here at halftime, the number's 877-377-6963, and the first hour wraps up next.
It might be over this season, but basketball is in full steam for both pros and college hoops. For all the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use our promo code BELIEVE to get started. That's promo code BLEAV. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, right to the Olympic coverage, is the best in the business. From sports right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, BetOnline is your number one online wagering destination. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports and play your favorite games. BetOnline, where the game starts.